What's up, LA gangsters, American gangsters, worldwide gangsters? This is Gangsta Transform Compete TV, and my name is Peasy. Our mission is to profile or interview ex-gangsters, hustlers, and anyone that was involved in the street lifestyle and have transformed themselves into positive members of society, and they are now competing legally in society. Our goal is to prevent the imprisonment or the unaliving of another. If you like our mission, please subscribe to our channel, leave a comment, and tell a friend. The man I'm going to profile today is Mr. Rudolph Johnson, but most people will know him as OG Joe Rocchead from Oaks Park Businessmen, Compton Crip, which later morphed into Santana Block Compton Crip. Now before I start, I have to speak on one of my old friends from Oaks Park Businessmen community. Now most people from LA, and if you're of a certain age, or if you were a college basketball fan in the 1990s, you'll remember or recognize the name O'Bannon, meaning Ed and Charles O'Bannon, who won the national championship with UCLA in 1995. Shout out to Ed and Charles. But the friend I'm referring to is John O'Bannon, Ed and Charles' grandfather. John was a very cool dude. I always enjoyed our interactions, our conversations. There was two memories that really stick out to me about John. In his house, he had a bunch of 60s style pictures and paintings of nude black women in his living room. These pics and paintings were not raunchy though. They were artful. They were done in very good taste. But my aunt, who had a son with John at the time, still hated him. The other memory I have of John was his German Shepherd, Rusty. When John started to get up in years, he moved from Santana Block to the A-Tray Gangsters. When he moved to A-Tray, he bought a duplex, and it had a huge front yard. So he got Rusty to protect the property. Now all of my experiences with dogs have been with pits. I've raised them all my life. Reds, blacks, brindles. I even have 3 pits to this day. But I never had interactions with the real German Shepherd, and the only thing I knew about them was that one time used them and they were closely related to the wolf. So when I go to John's house, Rusty was about his job, out there checking any person that came close to John's gate. But Rusty got to know me, so I could go over there with no problem. The day came when some people tried to break into John's house. I guess they thought Rusty was locked up, or maybe John didn't have a dog. But when they jumped over their fence, they were met with the greeting from Rusty. He went to work. The guys shot Rusty, but he didn't die. It didn't stop him. He kept squabbling, and the intruders were forced to retreat. I thought, damn, Rusty got shot and kept battling? Up until that point, I thought pits only had that type of determination. Rusty recovered from his wounds and was back on his job in the front yard. A short time later, Rusty was shot in the head, and John thought it was the same dudes that tried to break into his house before, and they were exacting revenge on Rusty for protecting his own house. Unfortunately, Rusty didn't survive this attack, and I remember how hurt and upset John was when this happened. Now, John was up in years at this time, but I know if he had been in his younger years, he would have definitely rode for Rusty. Shout out to John O'Bannon and Rusty. May they both rest in peace. Back on topic of Mr. Joe Rocchead. We meet the gangster. Mr. Rocchead was born in 1962. He grew up in the Oaks Park community on the east side of Compton, which will later become Santana Block, as I stated before. Now, for those that are not familiar with the different neighborhood locations, Oaks Park Businessmen was the only Crip set off Rosecrans back in those days. So you had to be strong. Later on, when Oaks Park turned into Santana Block, more Crip sets would evolve, like Santa Fe Mafia. Shout out to Jerry, Terry, and Lil Dog, as well as other sets. Mr. Rocchead had 3 brothers and 4 sisters. He was raised by a very strict mother, but he felt her sternness was too excessive. Now, usually we find that kids who end up in the streets don't have enough parental care and guidance, but Mr. Rocchead's mother tried to be a good parent, but her excessive discipline turned out to drive a wedge between them, and he would eventually run away from home. Mr. Rocchead would attend Mayo Elementary School, but was kicked out. He would attend Whaley Middle School, but he was kicked out. He would attend Willowbrook Middle School, but he was also kicked out. You see, as I said, Oaks Park Businessmen was one of the only Crip neighborhoods in the area, so these schools that he had to attend were blood schools. So he had to fight on a daily basis. Thus, he was getting kicked out of all these schools. Finally, Mr. Rocchead would call school quits at the age of 7th grade, and he would just simply drop out. So for someone to not finish middle school, the immediate future is almost always negative. What kind of legal future awaits you? That's a rhetorical question. So we have a young black boy who can't be controlled by his mother. His father is nowhere to be found. How often is that the situation? And this young boy has dropped out of school. Like thousands of young boys without the proper guidance at home, a young Rocchead enters the streets. But not necessarily with friends, but with Uncle Bobby Joe Kitchen, who was already repping Oaks Park. He was respected and well known. But instead of being a positive role model in a young Rocchead's life, it was the opposite. He had a young Joe Rocchead committing crimes. At the age of 11, Mr. Rocchead started going to boys' homes. He would visit up to 20 different boys' homes where he would have to fight on a regular basis. Now, as an aside, when kids enter these homes and foster care systems, it's almost always negative. A lot of times, these kids are used as paychecks. A lot of times, the social workers that are supposed to look out for these kids' welfare are overworked or just don't care. These kids do not have someone truly in their corner. The kids are often physically and mentally abused. They wind up either running to the streets, which will welcome the fresh meat. They end up becoming angry and negative with little hope for the future, or they end up in juvenile system, which is just preparation for prison. As I know this from my mother, who used to work for Sweet Alice and Parents of Watts. Rest in peace, moms. Shout out to Sweet Alice. Back on topic. And that's what happened to a young Mr. Rocchead. At age 12, he was at a boys' home in Whitewater where he was forced to fight on a regular basis. Now, Mr. Rocchead won most of the fights with the kids his age because of all the experience he had fighting in elementary school and in the neighborhood. But the older young men around the ages of 18 and 19 who were in the boys' home as well started hating on a young Rocchead. Matter of fact, they told him that they were going to take his manhood. So a young Mr. Rocchead got a metal pipe and got to cracking. He put 4 guys in a coma. Mr. Rocchead woke up in juvenile hall, handcuffed to a bed. He would receive a juvenile life sentence for that attack. Now, as an aside, this is an example of how the criminal system is not designed to be fair. Young Rocchead is 12 years old. 4 18 to 19-year-old men are telling him they are going to RAPE him. What the hell is he supposed to do? Now, I know as parents, what we're supposed to do is not let our kids end up in the foster care group home system. Back on topic. A life sentence in youth authority meant that they could keep him until he turned the age 25. Now, I'm not going to go into what Mr. Rocchead went through to survive in prison, but that's well documented. I will say that he spent 19 years in prison. He would get out, and even though he spent most of his life in prison at that time, he vowed to never go back. Now, Mr. Rocchead had a good idea upon leaving prison, and that was to stay clear of the set and the friends of his past to get his life straight. And I recommend this course for those who wish to leave gangbanging behind them when leaving prison. Change your environment. Change your environment. Back on topic. Mr. Rocchead would indeed stay away for about a year, but the lure to the set was great. You see, Mr. Rocchead missed a lot of his childhood. He didn't get to run the streets with a lot of his friends growing up as a teenager and in his young 20s, and the lure back to the set was too great. Mr. Rocchead started banging tough, and he was very active. He was on go. Until one of his homies told him one day, hey, you know, the ex-football player, Mr. Jim Brown, invited a bunch of gang members to his house for conversation. Mr. Rocchead enters, his transformation phase. Now, through a series of interactions and true, in-depth conversations with Mr. Jim Brown about what it truly meant to be a man, Mr. Rocchead started to listen to Jim Brown and started to learn from Mr. Brown, who had the American Foundation for Social Change. The day came when Mr. Brown flew Mr. Rocchead to San Francisco to help squash a gang beef. And they did. The feeling that Mr. Rocchead got from affecting the lives of those gang members in a positive way was the proof he needed to accept Mr. Brown as a mentor, and this was the right path he needed to take. He went through American's 15-chapter life skills program that taught him responsibility and self-determination, changing his mindset from I can't to I can. He also learned that he wasn't cursed at birth, and he was indeed somebody. just as every single one of you still out there banging. But it's not too late, as long as you're still above ground. We meet the competitor. Mr. Rocchead will become the National Chief of Staff of American Foundation for Social Change. He opened offices in 27 states. He took the Amer out of American and started his own foundation called ICAN, where he's helped 200 kids go to college through playing basketball. 9 of his players have reached the NBA, and hundreds have played overseas. He has relationships with over 320 Division I basketball programs. In addition, and more importantly, Mr. Rocchead visits juvenile hall and probation camps to talk with kids, to influence them in a positive way, away from gangs and the perils that await in prison. His ICAN Foundation offers a life skills curriculum. ICAN Foundation gives away educational toys to the youth, in addition to clothes, food for the homeless, books for the schools of Compton. Mr. Rocchead, we thank you for transforming your life. We respect you for giving back to your community and beyond. We champion you for the man you've become. This is Gangsta Transform Compete TV, and I'm Peasy. If you like our mission, like our videos. Leave a comment on what you think of Mr. Rocchead and tell a friend. Our mission is to prevent the unaliving of another or the incarceration of another. God bless.